Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of January 24th, 2022. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduling and on viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until April 1st, 2022, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, and the conference ID is 891-412-887#. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'll turn the meeting over to Chairman Beckley.
Thank you, Judy. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. All right, let's first establish that we have a quorum to proceed with the meeting. When I call your name, please indicate if you're on the call. Dr. Noble Hanson.
Here.
Ron Broman.
Here.
Ed Sheehan.
Here.
Carol Boyce.
Here.
And I'm here, and there's Dr. Richard Edwards. Okay, so Dr. Edwards is not on the call, but we do have the other five, so the quorum is established. All right, let's start with the first agenda item, which is a sewer connection order extension request for Stephen Buckley at 1533 Main Street. We all got a memo from Judy regarding this case with an attached email from Mr. Buckley. Judy, do you want to review this before we take it up?
Yes, we had given last year at this time, Mr. Buckley, a year extension on the connection to the sewer. The property is up for sale, and there is some interest from the town to purchase it, but it's tied up in probate. They're having issues, so Mr. Buckley is requesting additional time.
Mr. Buckley, John Beckley here. What's your time frame on this request?
I wish I knew. I thought a year ago that a 12-month deferral would be enough time, but court proceedings, as you know, might grind finally, but they take a long time. So I don't want to tempt fate by trying to guess that it would be sooner than later. Just hoping that this will be cleared up soon. Last month, just before Christmas, the probate court assigned local attorney Jamie Norcross to sell the property, but there's some clarification on that. It's not quite cleared up, but things seem to be moving forward in a way. Like I said, cross my fingers that things can go forward, but that's all I can really.
I understand then this is not really in your control. You're just working through something. So is your hunch that this would be the last extension you'd need from us?
Yes,
okay.
I believe so. It'll end one way or another, I believe, within a year.
Okay. Other board members, questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Ron Broman. Is anybody living in that house?
Yes, my brother and his daughter are living there. He had a contract with my late father to be property manager, so he is now residing. He moved in last May. No, he's online here if there's something that he wants to add to that.
No, I'll ask Judy. Judy, has the cesspool up there been inspected?
I'm not sure. I don't have the file for some reason in front of me. Stephen, do you know, has it been inspected in the last year?
It's my belief, and Andrew can clarify this, that it wasn't that after the last one of the conditions of the initial deferral was that it be inspected, and I believe that there was that it was inspected, and something to that effect was sent to Judy, I guess, in late January last year. But Andrew can clarify that.
Andrew?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I first of all, to restate, yes, I am currently occupying the main house on the property. I currently that has a Title V. Now the 3 cottages in the back are currently, one is occupied, but the tenant has indicated he's leaving the end of this month. Borthwick and Summers did, based upon the hearing of last year, followed through and provided a letter saying that they were functioning with no problems. And other than that, I anticipate that as of February 1st, the 3 cottages with their cesspools will be empty, and the house will remain occupied by myself and my daughter.
Okay.
And John, I do have the note from Borthwick and Summers saying that they inspected the cesspools last January and that they were in good condition at that time.
Okay. Thank you, Judy.
Additional questions or comments?
Yeah, this is
Noble.
Noble. So the expectation is that this, after February 1st, the cottages will not be rented, the ones serviced by the cesspool. Is that correct?
Each one of them has its own cesspool. They're not winterized.
Right.
So, but as far as anything else is concerned, it's all a matter of litigation as to, I anticipated 12 months ago this was going to be done in 6 months. So
will the cottages be rented this summer?
The management agreement that I have at the moment that runs through next year, either the property will be sold, and therefore this will not be my problem. If the property is not sold, then I do not know what we have yet to figure out what my fiduciary responsibility is. So I don't anticipate it, because I anticipated January 5th, when we had a pre-trial hearing, it was going to be resolved then. So I would guess not, but I don't know what I might be required to do. And to be honest, Jamie Norcross, having to currently being told to sell the property, I don't know what he would be required by the court. So I'm a bit. I'm hesitant to commit to anything that the court would, a court in Barnstable would decide otherwise. It's not my plan to at the moment, simply because it doesn't make sense to rent something to somebody for 6 months when the property could be sold in 4.
All right.
Okay. And then I just had a quick question of Judy. Normally would the Title V for the house, if there's an extension to the sewer hookup, would that be inspected as well, or ordered to be inspected?
The whole thing would be inspected. If it was a Title V, yeah, it would be inspected at the time of transfer.
You would, at the time of transfer, but not at the time of this extension. Is that what you're?
Well, Stephen, I'm sorry, is it all cesspools out there or is there a title? I was under the assumption that it was all cesspools, so, Stephen or Andrew, if it's all cesspools, it's an automatic failure anyways, so, they really don't need to inspect them. They are under order to connect, so.
My recollection was about 10 years ago that the Title V was put behind the house by my father to replace the cesspool. It's underground. I cannot speak to that. All I remember is my father taking his backhoe and digging a hole because it needed to be done, and it needed to be done right away. I cannot speak to what is there, but I don't recall. I believe my father was in compliance. That's the best I can say.
So anything that's out there that's in the ground, if we're gonna give them an extension, probably should be looked at. Again, have someone look at the cesspools and the, if there is a tank and a Title V system, we could have them look at that as well.
Okay, I will ask Borthwick and Summers to come by and do the same thing they did last time and include the house this time.
All right. Is the board ready for a motion on this? If so, can I have one?
Mr. Noble, yeah, I'll make a motion that we grant the 12-month extension to the hookup order with the provision that the cesspool or whatever other system is there be inspected now.
Very good. Do I get a second on that?
Second, Ed Sheehan.
Thank you, Ed. Any further discussion on this? Anybody from the public wish to comment on this before the board proceeds with a vote? If not, we have a motion and a second. Please tell me what your vote is when I call your name. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. So the motion carries. Mr. Buckley's or Stephen and Andrew, you have your approvals for up to 1 year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, let's go to item number 2 on the agenda. This is another sewer connection order extension request from JKM Properties at 3 locations on Main Street, 1685, 1705, and 1715 Main Street. We have a,
Hi, this is Sean Murphy with JKM Properties.
okay, there you are. Please tell us your situation and what you're looking for.
We're looking for a 6-month extension to get to the warmer weather. We have 2 bids waiting on third bid to come in, and we are recapitalizing the buildings to finance the connection. So
you're
we just
pretty-
sorry, go ahead.
So it sounds like you're ready to go.
Yeah, we'll wait. You know, it takes about 60 days for the financing to be put in place. And then, you know, scheduling with the excavation company to do the sewer connection. So we're hoping, you know, at some point in the early spring, things will all fall in order and the weather will be more conducive to do the work.
Okay,
Have you had the engineering done? This is Judy.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Board of Health questions, comments?
Yeah, Ron Broman, is that just one contractor going to do the 3 properties, or do you have different ones?
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear you. What was it again?
Yeah, is the same contractor going to do all 3?
Yeah,
properties?
that's the goal.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds reasonable enough. Any other Board of Health members want to ask questions or offer comments? Can I get a motion to approve this? Is the request for 6 months?
Well, I'm just trying to be on the safe side. We hope to have it done sooner than that, but, I don't want to ask for, 3 months and then say, hey, we need another 3 months.
Okay,
Bob has his hand up, John.
okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, it was indicated that the engineering's been done, but has a permit been applied for yet with the DPW?
We haven't selected a contractor yet. We're waiting for one more bid, so there has not been a permit applied for yet.
Okay, because your engineer can go ahead and apply for the permit and get that all done to save time, even if you don't have the installation contractor identified yet.
Okay, I can reach back out to them.
Yeah, okay.
Can I get a motion?
Snowball, yeah, I move that we approve a 6-month extension for the connection to sewer at the 1685, 1705, and 1715 Main Street locations.
All right, can I get a second?
Second, Ron Broman.
Second.
Okay, I got a second from Ed. Any further discussion by board members? Anybody from the public wish to comment before the board votes? If not, let's proceed with the vote. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve?
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce, Carol Boyce, I know you're out there.
Muted?
Approve.
Thank you. Okay, I approve as well. So we have 5 votes to approve. Motion carries. You have 6 months, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's go with the next agenda item. This is another sewer connection order extension request from Corey Clark, 51 George Ryder Road.
Hello,
Hello, Mr. Clark.
how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
Where are you with this?
So I just received the plans from the engineer on Tuesday last, which they were filed. I believe the town engineer's already seen them and is okay with them. I have a contractor that's working on the estimate so that I can do the low interest loans. So whatever, as fast as they can get that done is when I can start.
Okay. Sounds like you've made good progress.
Yeah, I had been waiting for one piece of information, which I got from Dr. Duncanson today on something. So I gave that also to my contractor. So he's moving forward with getting me an estimate.
Okay, so you're asking for a 6-month extension to get this wrapped.
If that's what you think, that's fine. I didn't realize I was asking for extension. I thought I was just going to let you know where I'm at, but that would be great. But I hope to not take that long. I'm not interested in dragging this out any longer. So I was just waiting for the engineers who were kind of behind. So as soon as I got that plan, my contractor was at my house that same night. So I'm trying to get it done as soon as possible.
All right.
I don't know how long something like this takes with the loan process and all that. So I really don't know what amount of time to ask for.
Noble.
Oh, no, so I would just say a 6 months extension sounds reasonable with the expectation that he'll be able to hook up in that period of time. And Dr. Duncanson has the information about the loans, I guess.
Yeah, my contract has dealt with, I've already spoken to Angela, I guess, who does all the loans. So they're already waiting for me to get the estimate to them. So the only thing I was waiting for was an estimate, but I was still, like I said, it was one piece of information I needed, which I got today from Dr. Duncanson. So that's all been forwarded.
All right. Any other comments from board members? If not, can I get a motion to extend an additional 6-month extension to Mr. Clark?
Ron Broman, I move that we extend the 6-month extension for a sewer connection at 51 George Ryder Road.
Thank you, Ron. Can I get a second?
Second, Ed Sheehan.
Ed, thank you, Ed. Any further questions or comments from board members? Anybody from the public wish to comment? All right, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve?
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approved.
and I vote to approve. So you've got your extension, Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, item 4. This is a variance hearing from nitrogen loading regulation for Edmund and Julia Chapman at 364 Cedar Street. Clark Engineering is doing the engineering work. Everybody got a copy of an email from a memo from Judy and attached application information. So Bob Duncanson, is it clear that this street will be sewered in a fairly soon period of time?
It is in the design phase. We have been working, trying to site a pump station. So it's taken a little bit longer than we've expected, just because the area is very difficult. There's a lot of wetlands and all in the area. But yes, it is in process for sewer.
Okay, questions or comments from Board of Health members? If anybody
Yeah,
got a chance.
Noble. So, just to understand, so the house there now is town approved as a 2-bedroom house with a 2-bedroom septic? And then,
Yeah. David Clark on the line. Can you hear me?
yeah,
Yes,
So yes, the property recently changed hands. It's a 2-bedroom dwelling. The past inspection, when the garage was built, it was built with extra space above it, all framed, but was never finished. So we're asking permission to finish off that space with the idea that sewer is just a few years away, and not have to upgrade the septic system.
there's 2 new dormers going in, Dave, on the 2nd floor of the main house. Are those bedrooms too? I'm a little confused.
There are dormers going on in the main house, but that doesn't change the bedroom count in the main house. It will still be 1 bedroom up and 1 bedroom down.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of the Chapmans. Those dormers are over a loft area. It's straight down to below. It's not enclosed space.
Okay, thank you. Let me get a clarification. Is the existing septic system large enough to handle a 3rd bedroom?
Yes, it is.
There's a 1,000-gallon tank, Mr. Chairman, and according to the septic report, and we're nowhere near wetlands or anything like that. There's 28 feet below the leaching down to the groundwater.
So I see, Judy, you made a note in your report to us that this is large enough in every respect to cover a 3rd bedroom flow potentially.
Correct.
Okay. Further questions to the applicant or comments?
yeah,
from board
Mr.
members?
Noble. So, it's the old question. So, on the 2nd floor, there's a room that says a reading loft. And I'm not really too good at looking at these plans, but it looks like before it was a loft with maybe a rail or something, and now there's a wall up there. But why wouldn't that be a bedroom? I mean, just for my own edification. Because it just has regular doorways, and there's a wall now instead of it looks like it might have been a rail before, but the old thing about how big a a way into and out. But why wouldn't the loft be a bedroom by our rules? I guess Judy might know the answer to that.
It looks to me like it's wide enough, the opening there. And I thought it was still open to below.
Oh,
It's-
be across from the two angles there, by where the stairs come up.
Right,
Yeah, no, well, it doesn't look like there's any privacy there because there's no door into that room, if you will. So
Right.
it's open to the stairs and all going down.
And then usually we say it's 4 or 5 feet, so that between the angles there of those two walls is that distance, I'm guessing? That's the explanation?
right. There's no privacy in that space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Further questions? Any comments from board members? If not, can I get a motion to approve? And then we have a couple of suggested,
Doc, did you have comments from abutters?
go ahead. I see.
Hi, this is Charlie. I'm here with my sister Jerry, and we're right behind their house. And we're just basically on this call because we pose the variance. When the system fails, it's gonna end up in our backyard. We are downhill from where their septic system is, and it's not a gentle slope. So that's just our 2 cents on what you guys have to decide. I don't know anything about septic systems, but if it's not approved for 3 bedrooms, then it's not approved for 3 bedrooms, I guess. So anyway, that's our opinion on it. When it fails, it's gonna end up in our yard, not theirs.
Judy?
I don't have the system diagram in front of me, but usually first of all, the system is big enough for 3 bedrooms, and if the system did start to fail, it would back up into the house long before it would start overflowing into the neighbor's yard. If it did start to puddle on top of the leaching area, it would be a sign to get it pumped right away. Diane just handed me the plan, so I'm going to take a look at it, but I don't foresee that there would be a big issue with it breaking out into your yard, into the neighbor's yard. They have 2 leach pits there. Those are very large pits, and one of them was full and the other one definitely had some serious use to it. So I would recommend that both of the pits be pumped out if we do grant this, and that would give them lots of extended time on this. But it did pass the inspection.
Okay. Okay, further Board of Health questions? Any further questions or comments to the applicant? So I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve with the 2 conditions referenced on our memo from Judy, and then adding a third, that the system be pumped out. Or both the pits be pumped out. Are we comfortable making that motion?
Yeah, this is Noble. I can make that motion that we approve the variance for adding the 3rd bedroom with the current system being pumped out and with the other 2 conditions that Judy could read into the record.
Can I get a second on that?
Second, Ed Sheehan.
Thank you, Ed. Judy, could you read the conditions?
The applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction to the Health Division. The property will be connected to town sewer within 180 days of being so ordered. And the third would be that the system is inspected and pumped prior to beginning construction of the new room.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, and we have the conditions read into the record. Anybody from the public wish to comment on this before the board votes?
I have a question. She said that they connect to the town sewer within 180 days. Does that mean sewer is going to be here in 180 days?
No.
Within 180 days of being ordered to connect.
I see.
So when the sewer becomes available.
And from what I understand, what was stated earlier, you don't have a time frame for that.
Just an estimate.
I didn't hear the estimate. What was the estimate?
It was referenced as 1 to 2 years. In my note, Dr. Duncanson wants to refine that. He can, but I think they're not really sure because they're still working on it.
Sure. No, I understand.
Okay. So when I call your name, please tell me how you vote on the motion as made. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. So motion is approved.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, let's keep moving on the agenda. Update and discussion regarding John McGrath's property at 32 Mill Hill Road with Dr. Duncanson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to give you a quick update. I've been asked to provide an update to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow. And so I sent around to the board earlier this afternoon the Selectmen's agenda report, which is a fairly comprehensive status of the McGrath property, but just to kind of hit some of the highlights since the last Board of Health meeting. We did query the police department regarding the trailers being parked in the road right-of-way that the board raised at the last hearing. And the police department have indicated that as long as the trailers are properly registered and displaying license plates, there's nothing in local rules, regulations, or bylaws that prohibits them from being parked there. Just as, would be the case for any other public roadway in Chatham. So that appears to answer that question. As the board knows, we had the right-of-way surveyed, and the survey plan was provided to the board earlier. Some quotes were received by the DPW to undertake cleanup within the road right-of-way layout. Unfortunately, based on the cost or the cost of those quotes ranging from $14,000 to $30,000, it will require a more formal bidding process under the Mass General Law, Chapter 30B procurement regulations. As a result, a draft request for bid, a written one, has been prepared, and that has been provided and is currently under review by Town Council. So hopefully we'll hear from that shortly. If not today, that's my phone ringing. That was Town Council trying to call me. So hopefully we'll have some good news on that here shortly. Once that RFP is received, we will then post that out publicly, send it to at least 3 firms that we know are capable of doing the work. We have to send it to at least 3 firms under the procurement law. We can obviously send it to more. We will do that. And then we generally give them about 2 weeks or so to get written proposals back to the town. Once those are received, we will notify the property owner that the town is ready to move ahead with a cleanup and to place a lien on the property. That basically provides the property owner another opportunity to do something on his own prior to us actually going ahead and doing the work and liening the property. So that will be kind of the next step. As we've talked about at the board, we also are looking at the cleanup of the property itself. So the first part was strictly talking about the road layout, the road right of way. We are still talking about that. Obviously, that will be at significantly more expense and will be above and beyond anything that we could do in the short term. I have just backtracking for a second in terms of the road right of way layout cleanup. I have had conversations with the finance director. There are potentially two avenues that we could seek for short-term funding for that. One is to approach the finance committee for a reserve fund transfer. The second option is there is some funding in an account that is reserved for damages to town properties, which theoretically, depending on the amount of this, funding for that could come out of that fund as well. We won't really know which of those two routes is the best one to take until we get the bids back in. As I think I indicated to the board at the last meeting, there has been some cleanup within the road layout, over the last month or so. Clearly it is not complete, but there has been some cleanup. And so the bids that we seek may come in lower than the original ones, just because there isn't quite as much material to be removed as there was originally. So, and then town staff continues to meet with town council on a fairly regular basis about this. And some of the other things that have been discussed or talked about are installation of signage, indicating it's a no dumping area, indicating it's a no parking area. The no parking area was actually brought up more in the context of it's a narrow road. There's a curve right there. There's a lot of heavy truck traffic going back and forth to TW Nickerson. And so it may be an appropriate spot for no parking signs, somewhat irregardless of what's going on at 32. And so there's going to be more discussion about that. That will probably have to go to, or not probably, that would have to go to the Traffic Safety Committee for their review and input as well. And then we're also looking at installation of a guardrail in the vicinity of number 32 to really demarcate the road layout. There's also been discussion about, or suggestion about discussion of a fence along the edge of the road layout as well to screen the property. So those are all things that are frankly under discussion. No decisions have been made about any of those, but they will, similar to tonight, they will be brought up tomorrow night at the Board of Selectmen meeting. So that's the latest update on that. Happy to answer any questions.
Two people have raised their hands.
Yeah.
Victoria? Victoria?
Hi, this is Victoria from 101 Mill Hill Road. Thank you for having another meeting on this and an update. I think the update is really, really good. I think it would be better if we could move forward faster, but I understand that these things take time. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I know that before we had talked about cleaning up the rest of the yard, and that would have to go in front of town meeting, right?
Correct.
So do we have paperwork that we have to put in?
Dr. Bob?
Yeah, there has been discussion already with the finance director and the town manager about a potential town meeting article to fund the cleanup on the property itself. Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is yes, there has been some cleanup, but then, things start to come back. And I think that is another issue that I'm not sure how we resolve that, but some of the stuff, especially the car, was taken away and now it has reappeared again, on a trailer. Right. So, anyway, I think you guys are doing a great job and we really appreciate everything that you're trying to do. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob. So in terms of the warrant article, we're on schedule to get that article in the May meeting, timing wise, with the due dates and all that.
Yes.
Okay, and then has the town actually, the finance director, given us a commitment that we will have funding to clean up the roadway, or is that still a maybe?
I don't have a definitive absolute yes, because we just don't know what the number is going to be yet. But I think in the discussions that we have had, we have identified at least 2 potential funding sources. So I think depending on how much it turns out to be to clean up the road right of way, we will find funding somewhere.
All right, so your sense is that we will get it, yeah. Now,
Yeah, I mean, until I go to her and say, this is the actual number, here's the bids, and this is what we need, it's hard for me to say I have an absolute commitment.
Okay, and then again, the timing of when you would get bids back and go and get the financing, and we actually might clean it up, you estimate that might be another month or 6 weeks, or?
I would say timing wise, between a month and 6 weeks. Maybe a little bit less, depending on how quickly we get the revised RFP back. Because we don't have to go through a formal bidding process where we have to advertise and put it in a central register and things like that. We just have to seek 3 written quotes. We can generally turn those around fairly quickly. As I've reported to the board, we already had 2 firms respond to the verbal ones, so we will definitely, be sending this to them. So, I think the turnaround time could be fairly quick. And then it will just be a question of, telling the contractor, and we've already indicated in the draft RFP that, the contractor has to start the work in a certain period of time and finish it in a certain period of time. So they can't come back to us and say, we won't start this for 6 months. We've set a fairly aggressive timeline that they would have to look at in terms of submitting a bid back to us.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can see that if that gets delayed enough that the point might come up, we should wrap the roadway funding into the town warrant. I'd be against that. I would be wanting to push as hard as we can to get the town funding for the roadway and the other separate. The other thing, a comment on what you said, the no parking signs, I guess that would include trailers then, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And so to me, that seems to solve one of the problems where he's converted the junk on the ground and the scrap metal onto trailers, and they're mobile, including the junked car. No parking would get around that whole trailer problem. And that to me is a good thing to pursue when there's no parking areas on roads all over the town. So it's not any new precedent to me. I'm not an expert, but it seemed to me. I still say I drove by, there's one trailer, it's a low kind of a vehicle trailer that's old, it's a double axle trailer, there's one tire on each side, and I do not see a license plate on that trailer. So that one would be part of the cleanup, I guess. My other question, no, I guess I'll leave that for later. So those are my points.
We have a hand up from an EB. Who is that?
Hey, John, it's Carol.
Gotcha, Carol. All right. You
All
have
right.
the floor.
My question is, I went by over the weekend and I didn't see a license plate on any of the trailers. There's at least 3 trailers there. None of them have a license plate. So if they're all registered, why don't they have, why are they not displaying a valid license plate?
Yeah.
I will verify that because I was out there a couple of weeks ago and I did see license plates on all of them. Some of them, the license plates were tucked kind of underneath and not easily visible from the road, but I will verify that. And I believe the police department as well is keeping an eye on that because we have raised that issue with them as well.
All right. And I agree about the no parking. I think that would be a good option for the town to take.
Thank you. More questions, more comments?
Yeah, this is Ron Drummond. It's for Bob Dunkerson. Bob, have they ever come up with a value of that house up there in property?
Ron, when you say the value of the property, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean the tax assessor's value of the property?
Well, obviously, we're going to be putting quite a loan up, a loan on the property up there. And I'm just wondering if the value of the property is up there.
No, I'm not aware that that's been done, Ron. The first thing we would do would be to lean for the cleanup within the road right of way. And then if the board decides to go ahead and clean up further on the property, that would also be leaned. Whether or not that exceeds the value of the property, I couldn't tell you.
Bob, this is John. I just want to get something clear in my mind. Are you saying that the Board of Selectmen have to agree to proceed with the main property cleanup as a prerequisite of having a warrant on town meeting?
Yes and no in some respects. It's the Board of Health that would order the cleanup under the nuisance statute. So that power rests with you guys. Obviously, if funding requires an article for town meeting, that does have to go through the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. So you could certainly, as the board, propose an article for town meeting for, X amount of dollars. Whether or not that article actually makes it onto the warrant or not would be the Board of Selectmen's call. And then obviously, it could go to a town meeting with, let's just, for want of a better explanation, a negative recommendation from the Board of Selectmen and a negative recommendation from the Finance Committee. So there is still a bit of uncertainty, I'll call it at this point, that, getting funding for a whole property cleanup is not an absolute at this point in time.
Thank you for that clarification.
So this is Noble again. So that, Bob, the funding for the roadway cleanup wouldn't have to go through that process you just talked about.
Right. The
Right,
funding
okay.
for the roadway cleanup, as I indicated, the finance director in conversations, we've identified two potential funding sources. One would be requesting a reserve fund transfer, and that goes through the Finance Committee. All right. And they ultimately have to give their approval for, expenditures out of the reserve fund because that's under their control. The second one would be this insured damages to insured town property account. I believe that is under the purview of the finance director and the town manager, but I can verify that for you. That they would have to sign off on using that as a short-term funding source, if you will, with the expectation that both, no matter where the money comes from, the town would put a lien on the property, even for the cleanup in the road layout. We've had that conversation with town council. Council has indicated that it can be done. Whether or not the town would be 100% successful is somewhat of an unknown. It's easy when you put a lien on private property for cleanup on private property. So the actual cleanup of the property itself, if the town goes in and does that, it's easy under the statutes to lien the private property where the cleanup is occurring. But town council has also indicated that we can lien the property for the cleanup in the road layout. Because we can make the clear nexus that the material in the road layout is related to the property. All right. But, with the courts, that is not an absolute always. So there's a little uncertainty as to whether or not we'd absolutely be successful in that route or not. And until we do it, and if he contests it to the court, we won't have an absolute answer.
Okay.
John, there's two hands up. There's a CG who's been waiting patiently.
I can't see that on my screen. Okay, CG, please identify yourself and you have the floor.
Hi, it's Carol Gordon from South Chatham.
Oh, hi, Karen.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes?
Okay, fine. I don't know why my picture's not coming up, but that's okay. Anyway, I want to congratulate the board again for your encouragement of public input on every agenda item before the vote. I think that's really necessary and we really appreciate that. I too would like to see no parking, no dumping signs put up. I think that's excellent. Also, I was wondering, is there any way that the bids could go out, the request for bids to go out a little faster, maybe like in a day or two or something? I know this is probably something you've been preparing for since the survey. So I was just wondering if maybe we could speed that up a bit. I'm very happy that the town is moving forward the way they are. I think it's two things. Jill was invited, or our town manager was invited to come to the Board of Health meeting to answer questions. I was just wondering when she'll be attending or what is happening with that. I know this was back probably a couple months ago that we had invited her, or she was going to be invited. And maybe I just missed that meeting, but I was just wondering what's happening there. Anybody? No? Okay.
She was invited and she was not available at that meeting.
Right.
And we have not extended the request again. We have been working on a staff level. As
Okay.
Bob indicated, we've been meeting to update her and working with town council so that we're all on the same page as we move forward with this. And then Bob's, presenting this to the selectmen tomorrow night. So a lot of the questions will be from her and the Board of Selectmen tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay. Also, I was wondering, okay, I'm a little bit confused about the warrant for the warrant article for town meeting for the cleanup of the property. Is this something the town council is doing? I was under the impression that it was going to be, that it was definitely that there was going to be a warrant article at town meeting for the cleanup of the property. And the more I hear conflicting things, that maybe I'm just confused, but is that something that we're working forward? We're moving forward on? And does the Board of Health need to do anything other than request it? And if so, will the Board of Health request this? Help me out here. Help me understand, please.
Well, Carol, this is John Becky. I can say on behalf of the Board of Health that it's certainly our expectation that this should move ahead and will move ahead as a warrant article, but it's not within our power to make sure that it does.
Right.
Hopefully there will be a continuing commitment from the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee to not only see that this moves forward in that direction, but to also endorse it heartily with their own votes. I think the public needs to make this final decision, but they have to have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Now, does that mean that you need to write, do you need to write a formal request to the select board or to whomever the powers that be, that you have to write a formal request? And if so, I was wondering if you would do a motion on that by any chance.
Well, it's a good question. I don't know what time in the process, Judy or Bob, that it would make sense for the board to do that. Just to clarify that is our expectation, whether it's premature to do it or whether it's time to do it. What about other board members? What do people think? Noble?
Yeah, I mean, my impression was that Bob was working with town to basically write up this warrant article. And so it's in his hands going through the town, and we're in the process of it. There's no doubt about whether we're doing it or not. That's my impression, but I don't want to speak for Bob.
Yeah, I just thought that I heard that there was something where the Board of Health had to definitely request that this warrant for this warrant article. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's safe to say, based on the board's conversation, that request has already been made.
Oh, great. Okay, so it doesn't have to be in writing. Fabulous. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm glad. Of course, I'm always happy to hear about time limits And a month to 6 weeks sounds lovely. So I hope that that may happen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are there any other hands up, Judy, that I don't see?
Yeah, EBG.
Yes, thank you. This is Elaine Gibbs. I guess this is more of observation and a question moving forward. This particular property's been going on for years. Everybody's known that there's been a problem there. I'd love to know how many staff hours have been put into it and how long it's taken. And now the resolution for the actual property would be that the taxpayers have to pay to clean it up and wait eventually for, because there's going to be a lien on the property. I assume that's how it works. We pay for the cleanup and then it is put on the property to be paid back when it's sold. This isn't encouraging for property owners in Chatham. This isn't the only property. This might be one of the more obvious, but there are a lot of properties that should be cleaned up. So I would hope that we can look at a way, first of all, to streamline the process so it doesn't take 2 or 3 years when there are obvious issues with properties, because it affects everybody's property value. And moving forward, having a situation, maybe new regulations by the Board of Health, that if a property's been identified that is impacting the property owner values of surrounding neighbors, that just like you do with the Conservation Commission, once there's a violation, they start getting fined every day until they clean it up. And I would think that that would stop properties from getting to this point. They would be given a notice, clean it up, you're getting charged $100 a day until you clean it up, and then it gets cleaned up. To go through this, again, there's no hope for other residents. When you drive around and really start looking, there's stuff everywhere that really impacts the properties of the neighbors, as well as the look of the town, and affects water quality and everything else, because we don't even know what's in some of these places. So I would hope you would look at that down the road and use this sort of as a guidepost to decide how can we do this faster with less staff time and just streamline the process so that we don't get to this point again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Anybody else like to comment?
Yeah, Ron Broman, I'd like to ask Bob a question.
Go ahead.
Bob, you mentioned that when we go in to clean up the property, the house, the property, that the town will not put a lien on the house for that?
They will.
No, I said the town would put a lien on the property. We definitely can lien the property for a cleanup on the property.
Oh, okay. I must have missed
That's an absolute. It's little less of an absolute to put a lien on the property when we're cleaning up a public road layout. We're going to do it, but the guidance from town council is it's a little less of an absolute that if that was challenged in court that it would hold up. So that's why I say there's a little bit of uncertainty there, not a lot, but some. But when you clean up the property itself, that is clearly lienable.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, Dr. Duncanson, thank you for your report and thank you for answering the many questions and responding to the comments. I have a much better sense of where things are now than I did before our meeting today.
Okay.
All right, let's move on the agenda to item number 6, Chatham water quality with Dr. Duncanson. Any updates?
Actually, I don't really have any updates today beyond what we've talked about before. We're moving ahead with wells 10 and 11. They're moving ahead with the temporary treatment plan for wells 5 and 8 to get that online this spring, hopefully by April. And then they're also moving ahead on the design for the permanent treatment plan for wells 5 and 8. So, yeah, we haven't had any progress meetings with the engineers, in the last 2 weeks. So I don't have much more to indicate other than I know things, but based on phone calls that I get from the engineers, that things are still moving ahead.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's,
Rhonda, I have one question on that, Bob. What about the PS, that test that you were going to have done?
The PFAS?
Yes, PFAS.
Yeah, the board should have received the latest spreadsheet, which has all the latest results through, I think, the last set of data. Let me just look here real quick. Yeah, the last spreadsheet was sent out on the 13th, and it included results through December 12th. I think I've indicated that, you know, before where the lab had about a week turnaround, they now have about a 3-week turnaround because, you know, so many communities in Massachusetts are now testing for PFAS because they had, just like us, they had detections. So the last set of test results we had was December 21st. And that was from wells 5 and 8. And again, they were ranging in the 14 to 15 parts per trillion range, which is, you know, about where they've been. Previous to that, on December 7th, we had the tests were taken out of well number 4. If you remember, well number 4 is now back online. Only about 2 or 3 hours a day, depending on what the demand is. So it's not being used very much. And the last set of test results from well number 4 continued to be non-detect, which is good news. But as I've indicated before, I do have, you know, in the back of my head, I have a concern that, you know, if we start pumping well number 4 significantly again, you know, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, I'm just concerned that, you know, we're going to start pulling material in from some air because wells 4 is not that far well from 5 and 8. So, but anyway, and then we're still working on the RFP to get out on the street to do the PFAS detection study. And that's honestly, that's just been tied up with so many other things going on right now with COVID and 32 Mill Hill and PFAS and wastewater and all those other little things that we're all working on.
Real quick, Bob, is there any news on whether the water table's moving up with all the rain we've been having?
Give me a second.
it should be.
Hang on, it's loading. Okay, there is a very slight uptick in the Chatham monitoring well, and I'll send these around after the meeting. But we are, you know, it's still lower than it was even last summer, but we are seeing a little bit of an uptick. And then I'll check the Brewster well as well and send that out to the board this afternoon or tomorrow when I do the selectmen's meeting. So we are seeing some uptick. So, you know, if we get the potential storm that they're talking about for Friday and Saturday of this week with maybe up to 6 or 8 inches of snow, that will definitely help. But I think we're still potentially going to be below where we would be or where we've been the last couple of years. You know, last summer was exceedingly low. Last winter was exceedingly low. So we still haven't rebounded in the you know, winter, early spring period to where we were, say, in 2019 or 2020. So, you know, we're starting way behind the 8 ball. So we have a lot of ground to make up. And whether or not we'll be able to make that up before the summer season remains to be seen.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to COVID-19. Dr. Duncanson.
All right, so the latest COVID numbers. We've had 128 cases so far this month, and that is as of yesterday. And that compares to 106 cases in all of January last year. So as we've been talking about the last couple of meetings, this January right now is on track to be even worse than last January. You know, the good thing is most of the cases that we're seeing now are asymptomatic or very mildly symptomatic, you know, because we're dealing with the Omicron variant, which is less severe or appears to be less severe, as well as the majority of people are vaccinated. And so if they are, you know, even though you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID, you can still come down with the Omicron variant. But generally it results in significantly less illness and severity, doesn't require hospitalization, doesn't cause people to be in the ICUs, and doesn't cause as many deaths. That's not to say that the hospitals and all are not being overrun with patients. They are, strictly because of the sheer numbers of people that are infected because of the Omicron variant, which we all know is exceedingly high. We do appear to be past the peak in Chatham, as well as in Massachusetts and the Northeast compared to some other parts of the country. We are definitely seeing things starting to trend downward, which is a good sign. Last week, our percent positivity rate was the 6th lowest on the Cape at 15.6% compared to, a rate in Barnstable County of 20%. And then the average daily incident rate had also dropped a little bit. We were down at 85%. And actually, there was a slight uptick in both of those indicators compared to the previous week. We were trending downward the week of the 13th. Last week, there was a slight uptick in both of those indicators, not significant. We're still down compared to where we were at the height in earlier January. So hopefully when this week's report comes out on Thursday, we will see that continued downward trend, if you will, that we were starting to experience earlier in the month. So I think that's pretty much what I've got. Yeah, we were the 6th lowest in positivity rate, which is great. And then when the average daily incident rate, we were the 4th lowest on the Cape, which compares to previous weeks in January when we were the, you know, either at or near the highest on the Cape. So things were trending, or things are trending in the right direction, and hopefully that will continue. There's been a significant number of cases in the schools, as I'm sure you've heard. A lot of the cases we're getting are childhood cases, both, you know, on the Cape and throughout the country. You know, and that's partially a reflection that a lot of the youngsters, either aren't eligible for the vaccine yet or haven't been vaccinated. Majority of cases continue to be in the 20 to 39-year-old demographic. For whatever reason, they are reluctant to get vaccinated. And even though many of them are eligible for booster shots, they have not gotten booster shots as well. And so that just puts them in a difficult position. So I think with that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Judy,
or
I've
at least
got a
try
question.
to.
Judy, John Beckley, have we had any issues regarding compliance with the indoor mask mandate?
We've had a couple complaints about a couple of businesses. One being Body Strong, and the owner has indicated to me that he will not enforce the mask mandate. I haven't gone up there. I just haven't gone up there and done any ticketing. I'm not really sure whether I can ticket the establishment or if I have to ticket individual people. So I'm a little leery about that. I also had another complaint about people at the Squire not the employees specifically not wearing masks. And I did speak to the owner and the manager today, and they indicated to me that they will take care of that issue. But beyond that, people have been very supportive, and I've had no other complaints.
Okay, thank you. More questions from Dr. Duncanson or Judy? Or comments? Let's just hope this descent continues as fast as it went up.
Yeah, if you look at the, and I can send this around too, if you look at the wastewater data, because that's something I've been keeping an eye on, not here in Chatham, but wastewater data out of the MWRA in Boston and other locations around the country. As quickly as the Omicron surge went up, it is dropping off just as rapidly, which is a good thing. And you know, there's been several articles lately confirming how wastewater is a much better advance indicator, if you will, than case counts. Because obviously, especially with a lot of asymptomatic individuals, they don't know they have it, but when they shed it, you know, through their waste, it's picked up. And so the fact that it's dropping off just as quickly as it surged up is a good sign. So
would that, projecting that, Dr. Duncanson, where would that land us, say, in another month? Would we be at a very low incidence level then?
I would hope so, based on the numbers we're seeing. I mean, obviously, we want to get back below that 5% positivity rate, because anything above 5%, and, you know, we're up around the 15%, you know, anything above 5% basically indicates a, you know, an epidemic out of control, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get it back below that 5% rate where we were through the summer and, you know, the beginning of the fall, that's a good sign. So yeah, hopefully things will drop off fairly quickly here. You know, and as we've talked about before, and other members of the public and all have brought up, you know, we're only seeing the reported case counts, but we know that a lot of people are doing their own home testing and things like that. And none of that data is reported. That's why I say wastewater is a pretty good indicator, because it takes, you know, it evens out all that. It really says, here's what's going on in the community. And just before somebody asks, we are not wastewater testing here in Chatham. We did have that conversation way back in early or you know, late spring, early summer 2020 about whether or not it was something to pursue here, because places like Provincetown is doing it. And it was determined that because our sewer system really serves a limited area, and so it wouldn't be absolutely representative of the entire community. So we made the decision, and you know, with talking with other people as well, that it didn't make sense to go through the expense of doing it, because it wouldn't be as accurate here, where P-Town, pretty much the entire town is sewered. And the same thing with Boston, you know, pretty much everybody's on sewer. So you get a much better representation of the community at large. So anyway.
But certainly moving forward, Bob, in the years ahead, it seems to me that if you wanted to build a very sensitive surveillance tool for emerging new infections of this type, it would be an excellent thing to invest in.
Yeah, and that's exactly why CDC has funded a nationwide wastewater surveillance program, because this has really shown how good it is at being a predictor, and a more time-sensitive predictor, you know, than necessarily waiting for case counts or hospitalizations, you know, which we know can lag behind infection rates. So, yeah, I fully expect that this wastewater surveillance system that's been put in place now because of COVID is going to continue into the future, you know, as technology gets better and as funding is assured that, you know, if we get into situations like this with some other disease outbreak, this is definitely a great way to monitor for it and predict what may be going to happen. So, right. And I'll send around a couple of reports. Like I said, there were a couple of New York Times articles in the last couple of days about this, and I'll send those out to the board.
Thank you. Noble.
Yeah, and a good discussion, and we had, when we put our indoor mask order in, we had mentioned the next meeting, February 7th, as a time when we would discuss it again and talk about, according to the numbers, when we might consider going back to a guideline of indoor mask wearing. So
Exactly.
this is a good preliminary discussion to
Yes.
the meeting in 2 weeks.
We will do that, Noble. Any other questions or comments on COVID-19? If not, we have a couple of final business actions to take relating to 2 Board of Health meetings in January. The first is January 3rd. We have minutes on that in our packets, and January 6th. So let's take up January 3rd first. Does any board member have any recommended edits or changes in the minutes for January 3rd? Hearing none, can I get a motion to accept the minutes for January 3rd, 2022?
Yeah, John, it's Carol. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
Thank
of
you.
the January 3rd meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second,
Ed Sheehan.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to approve the minutes for January 3rd, 2022. Dr. Hanson,
Approve.
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. All right, we have a second set of minutes for January 6th. Are there any edits or clarifications anybody would like to request for that document? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for January 6th, 2022?
Noble, motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second Carol.
Thank you, Carol. All right, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to accept the minutes from January 6th, 2022. Dr. Hanson,
Approve.
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. So that's the end of our agenda. Does anybody have any last minute issues or questions they'd like to pose? If not, we can adjourn, or we have to have a motion to adjourn. Any last minute comments or questions from board members? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Ed Sheehan.
Thanks, Ed. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ron Broman.
Okay, I got a second from Carol. Okay, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to adjourn. Dr. Hanson,
Adjourn.
Ron Broman,
Adjourn.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Adjourn.
and I vote to, you have to say approve or not, Carol.
Approve.
Okay. I'm sorry, maybe you didn't. Okay, John Beckley, I vote to approve too. So we have 5 votes to approve the motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. First of all, let me say I'm sorry I was late. I was actually working on the Board of Health annual report and I forgot what time it was. So, but thank you for the reminder call, Judy.